What is up, my fellow golf ball addicts? I have another golf ball review for you today, and we are finally doing the Noodle Long and Soft. I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere, but let's dive right in. All right, so this is a golf ball a lot of you have wanted me to review for a long time. Essentially what it kind of boils down to is I put it in the category of budget ball, an expensive two-piece for beginners, guys who are just wanting to get the ball long, straight, and it fits into that category, kind of a subcategory really, because a lot of golf companies have their off-brand ball that they make, but they really don't call it their ball. They don't own up to it. Maybe they purchased it at one time. Let me give you an example. So Bridgestone, for example, the Precept Laddie, which I tested, was very good. Titleist, it's going to be the Pinnacle ball, just things like that. And now we have Taylormade, actually, is who owns the Noodle and makes the Noodle. So with that being said, all companies kind of have a ball like this some way or another, and I've had a lot of success with them, actually. The Pinnacle tested really well, so did the Precept Laddie. So I imagine this one has the potential to do so also. So let's first dive into the design of the golf ball. That is what the logo looks like there. It's kind of an interesting font, but I mean, most of the time when I see the word noodle, I just don't take noodle seriously as far as like, I don't know, it's weird. When I think of noodle, I just wouldn't think of a golf ball, right? But it is what it is. It's its name. Got a nice little red one there on the side there. The alignment tool won't be much for aligning your ball. It just says long and soft on it there. And then as far as the overall feel of the ball, the dimples don't look bad, but it does feel pretty plasticky, not super plasticky. So I got to give them some credit. It feels more premium than some of the golf balls I've seen. But overall, not a bad design. That's what it looks like. Let's go ahead and talk about the chipping and the putting and go from there. So first thing I want to talk about is obviously the wedge. With a golf ball like this, you wouldn't expect there to be a lot of checkup, and there isn't, unfortunately. There just isn't a lot of checkup. Golf balls like this aren't really meant for it, but I will say that this one kind of does act like it wants to check up, but in the end, it still has a very firm release. Not going to help you much there. And then as far as the feel of it, it's actually pretty bouncy, to be honest with you. It's actually pretty muted. There's not a lot of feel in it. It's definitely not firm or loud. There's no click to it. But when it just comes to coming off the wedge, it just seems to spring up there with a nice little high launch from around the green. It's just not much checkup. So overall, not bad. When it comes to the putter, it actually feels pretty good. Most companies now are actually getting pretty good at making a golf ball that feels pretty decent. This one actually feels pretty decent as well, whether you're using a blade, whether you're using a mallet. I was actually able to get pretty much a mostly true roll, off of both of them. So they both feel good. Around the green, it honestly kind of just, it just does everything it's supposed to. I mean, it doesn't amaze me in any way, but it also doesn't have any merits against it. This is how I would expect a golf ball like this to perform. All right, so the Noodle is a two-piece iometer golf ball. The Noodle comes in at an amazing price point of $15 for 12 golf balls, which is just over $1 a piece. So that's actually a really, really good value. It's pretty much what the main big value golf balls are going for now, is around the $1 to $1.25 per golf ball range. So good to see there. Now let's get into the numbers a little bit. Let's see how we did there. We're going to start off always, of course, we do 9 iron, 7 iron, 5 hybrid, and driver. So let's start with the 9 iron here with this one. All right, let's get into these 9 iron numbers. We are looking at 91.1 with the ball mile per hour. That's average. 125.3, that's average. 118.6, again, right on average. And it actually launched high at 25.8 opposed to my average of 22.6. So interesting numbers there. Average across the board, but it just launches a little higher, which for beginners, that's not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of beginner players don't hit down on the ball. They blade them a lot, so getting a little extra height might help them. Getting into the 7 iron, it spins 64.31, which is just slightly above my average, pretty much line and average. 105.5, so we actually did lose a tiny bit of ball mile per hour speed there, and it looks like I lost about 2 yards on my total distance, as well as 2 yards on my carry. And it did launch 18.8, which is actually mid. That's pretty average, honestly, as far as what I usually do. So 7 iron, even though it was a slight step down with the ball speed, I'm not going to hold it against it too much because, again, the other two numbers was only a 2-yard difference, and it did spin slightly more than my average, so maybe that's what the 2 yards are from. So it's pretty close. I mean, that would be splitting hairs. Now we're into the 5 iron spin, which is 43.27, which is above my average. So again, getting some good spin with the ball. 117.3 is average, 194.1 is average, 179.8 is average, and then it launched super high at 15.7, which I don't mind. Most of the time I don't have an issue with my hybrid really ballooning up in the air. Now with this golf ball having that higher spin and having a higher launch, I figured it probably would have lost some distance from my average, but that's not the case here actually. Everything was average across the board. I didn't lose any yards. I just gained some height and I gained some spin, which is not a bad thing. That means I'm going to be able to stick more greens with my hybrid, which is something I don't always do. So I do like that. Coming in with the driver, again, we just have slightly more spin, which is, not a bad thing. 241.3, that's right in line with average. 132.4, that's actually 2 miles an hour under my average, so that's interesting. The yardage was the same. 220.1, that's right in line with average, and it launches super high at 16.3. So that's actually where the height helped me, was with the driver. It was able to get up in the air and carry a little bit further, and I actually didn't lose any distance despite losing 2 mile per hour ball speed. So interesting there. All right, so with those numbers, before I give you my closing thoughts, I do want to touch on the durability real quick, of course, very important. Looking at the golf ball, this is after about 60 to 70 shots. I'm in the process of refining my method of testing durability. I used to just do 40, 50 shots or whatever. I'm trying to do more shots now around the green, just so I can kind of simulate with wedges a little bit more of the durability. As you can see with this noodle right here, it is scraped up a little bit. You see some raised edges. It's not perfect by any means, but that's not what this golf ball is intended for. This is a more inexpensive golf ball designed at beginners, so I mean, you're going to probably be losing them a little bit if you're using a ball like this, so that means it doesn't need to last you a whole round, but this one probably would. After a round, it'd probably be done. All right, so final thoughts with this golf ball. So, honestly, it's very consistent across the board. It does pretty much the same with every club. It launches high. If it doesn't launch high, it's still average high. It actually is average right in line with my averages as far as distance. And what's really cool is even on spin, it's pretty consistent as far as just being slightly above average on every club. So that part's really good. However, it's not the most forgiving golf ball I've seen. It's actually pretty unforgiving on mishits, unfortunately. I was losing 10 yards, which probably hurt the averages, to be honest with you. And I seem to notice that with this golf ball a lot. There was a lot of dispersion. When I hit one pure, boy, it went a mile. But boy, when I mishit one, I lost 10, 15 yards. So there was a lot of disparity there, which probably affected the averages a little bit. It could be why they were all on average, but they still averaged out to average even with that. So there's a lot of potential here. If you're someone who's a really good ball striker and you just do want a more forgiving two-piece golf ball, this is definitely one to go with. It performs really well when pured. It has some spin to it. It's going to stop on greens. It's going to offer you, some distance, which is awesome. And it's also not going to break your wallet. Now, if you're not a great ball striker, unfortunately, I think those other golf balls, such as the Laddie Precept, as well as the Pinnacle Rush, Pinnacle Soft, depending on your swing speed, I think those are going to probably beat out this when it comes to that type of swing, just because they're more forgiving. You can mishit those and you're still going to get pretty much the same distance. I feel like this one might have just been a little bit more advanced, maybe more toward the intermediate as far as a swing stage. So overall, not a bad golf ball, really good. I would recommend it to people. It just, unfortunately, I don't think it quite performs as well as the other two that I've mentioned before. I think those two are going to be ahead of it. So guys, as always, keep watching to keep saving and keep learning. Until next time.